Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's Workshop. So today we're doing wall coverings for the rooming house music room. And I've chosen a really pretty brown stripe. Now, I showed you before just how rugged and rough the walls were, and also all the gaps and spaces around the window. And again, this is a restoration of a vintage dollhouse, so I had to do things to create the illusion of alignment and symmetry. So I'm just shaving down the filler around the doorway to make sure it's flush with the wall. Dolls, for safety, always close your craft blade before you lay it down. So dolls, to create the finishing of the arched doorway, I used some graph paper to create a template so that I made sure that it fit nice and neat. And what I do, dolls, because I don't like to measure, I actually put the graph paper in the area that I'm trying to cover. I create an impression on the graph paper that'll give me a guide to cut my arch. And there we are, dolls. Now that's my way. It may not be the most scientific or accurate way to do it, but it's just what I do. And so now that I have the template created and I know that the sizing is correct, I went ahead and added masking tape to make sure that the template was nice and firm, that I made sure I covered all the areas that needed to be covered so I wouldn't have any gapping or spaces. And I took it all the way up to the ceiling so you can really see what's going on. Now, in the process of making this template and working with the wallpaper I had, I realized that I really didn't have enough wallpaper to cover the complete room. So while pondering a resolution for that dilemma, I realized I needed to go ahead and create a shim to fill in the gap next to the double doors so that the wall and the door will be flush when I add the actual wallpaper. And I added a small wood stick right along the side of the door to make that area level, because there's a little gap where I added cardboard to fill in the gap around the door frame. And I had to make sure that the door will open smoothly after I added my little wooden shim. And dolls, so these are kind of some of the small things that you may have to do if you have a vintage dollhouse or if your dollhouse is new construction. Don't be afraid to modify things to make corrections, because if it's not right, you won't be satisfied with it. And again, I keep checking to make sure my door opens smoothly with that little shim. Now, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I realized I didn't have enough wallpaper. I was actually working with remnants. So I had to come up with a solution of how I would cover the rest of the doorway. And I realized I had some more embossed brick paper, and that would make that entire wall a brick wall where the window wall was. So I started to cut the pieces so that I could configure them around the doorway. And it actually turned out to be a great solution, dolls, because the cardstock or the embossed paper for the brick was really firm. It was pliable. It was easy to cut, easy to create the lines and stack the layers of mortar and brick so that it looked like one continuous piece rather than fragments or remnants. Now, I had to take my time because I was trying to fit it around the door frame and not go too far into the parlor. So I had to take my time with this, dolls, but it really worked really great. I thought it looked very nice and authentic next to that brown looking striped paper. And yeah, dolls, don't be afraid to take a chance. Try something different. Look at some pictures for inspiration. But in this instance, I really didn't look for inspiration. I just knew how much material I had, and I wanted to make the best of it. So dolls, after I finished covering the really thin portion of the arched door frame, I went on to cut my template for the larger portion, which I needed to cut so that it would blend in seamlessly to the existing brick window wall. Now, I do use tacky glue as my wallpaper paste. This has kind of been my go-to for years. I just put it on a piece of cardboard and just spread it really thin on all the areas that I wanted to cover. Now, be really careful not to get it on your existing wallpaper. Now, dolls, I did allow the tacky glue to get on the portion of the brick where I want the brick to overlap. Now, while my brick paper is drying, I went on to add my doorknobs. I did use a suggestion from my friend over at Tiny Keyhole Minis. to add a little gloss or shine to my black doorknobs, and it turned out really great. Thank you so much for that suggestion. And here is my completed exposed brick wall in the music room. I think that looks really good. I think it looks very neat next to the brown striped wall. Now, dolls, if you enjoyed this video today, definitely let me know in the comments. Also, like, share, and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.